Ha! It's all worked. Hello, everybody, again. Welcome to Flooring by the Numbers Live, and we're with you from multiple places today. So hopefully the technology will work from my home screen here in somewhere in Georgia. Andre's in the home office in Charlotte, and we have a guest. We have the famous Jerry Freeman. Jerry, where are you today? Chicago. And we're really excited about Jerry being on the show. Jerry's been a long-time listener to our show, and started making some really nice comments and giving us some ideas. And so we got talking to Jerry, and Jerry is an absolute almanac around some of the issues and facts facing the industry. Not surprisingly, like Andre and I, he's got gray hair, lots of wisdom, 34 years in the commercial construction industry on many sides of the business. So he has a very rounded perspective on the challenges that you're all facing. And I know we headlined this. We're going to give you some thoughts on what GCs say about their suppliers. And Jerry is going to tell us a lot about, hopefully, the pitfalls in the bidding process and how you can improve your overall capability. So we're really, really excited about that. And Andre, just I know you wanted to make a note here about our non-affiliation with any companies or partners.
Yeah, I mean, Nick, this is look. First of all, it's really is a privilege having Jerry, and I mean, we were attracted to, look, we don't care about software. We don't. Hey, Jerry, I mean, there is no benefit to us. I mean, yes, we have an agreement where hopefully where there's a mutual fit, we would recommend each other to potential opportunities. So, but we don't get any money from any of this. But we really loved what we saw when we spoke to Jerry the first time. Not so much just purely because it's software, but really the strategic value that I think Jerry can bring to your organization, and we really think that can be so instrumental in helping you create more revenue and being more prominent with your customers. So looking very forward to this.
Great. All right. Well, good stuff. So Jerry, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I started in the industry in the late 80s. My degree is in architecture. And I started at Gensler in DC when there were 52 people. So obviously a while back. Spent 10 years doing that. Then went to work for a startup carpet mill, Envision Carpets. Was there 5.5, 6 years. Then went and helped start Constant Carpets. Was there 6.5 years. And then went over and ran the sales team for Lee's here in Chicago. And then eventually the Karastan team as well. And then in 1995, I left Mohawk and started a hard surface company. Great timing. Everything was crashing. Everything was burning. Couldn't get loans. Couldn't get funding. It sucked. So I thought, hell, I might as well start doing software. And so I started working on software platforms to basically make it easier for us to do our jobs. How can we create software that takes the pressure off of the tasks that we do every day that don't generate revenue? So that's kind of what we focus on.
Fantastic. All right. Well, good. So I know you've got some fun facts. Do we want to start with a fun fact first, Andre? I know you were excited about this one.
Well, okay. I mean, yeah. Thank you for that. Okay, but so what we said to, I mean, obviously, when there's sort of insight in that Jerry has, and I love to get some of that up front. So Jerry, if you had to say to us, what is the most popular product that has been purchased month in, month out?
Do you want people to guess, or do you want me to answer that?
Okay, actually, this is a better way to do that. So if there's anybody on the show that feels they have an idea, to please put in the comments, what would you believe is the most popular product purchased? So, for in other words, every single job, or not every single job, but pretty much the majority of jobs. Would that be a good description?
Yeah, I mean, it's the product that we see the most. We see twice as much usage of that product to the next most popular product. and it's used throughout North America.
So double the usage basically for this. So can anybody guess? All right, so we'll leave that for later on and see if there's any.
Enter your comments, and then we'll come back to it.
Yeah, okay. Let's have a little fun around that. Okay.
Give you a little bit of time to answer that question. What's the most popular product used? All right, and Jerry would, software engineers, smart people would never be anywhere without a great slideshow. So I know Jerry has got some thoughts that he wants to share with us, but specifically around some of these challenges that you're all, I'm sure, facing. So let me just share that with the group, Jerry. I'll keep your face on there so people can see that. This is an easy one to write. So yeah, tell us a little bit about what you see in the industry, Jerry, and please cue me when you want to transfer to the next slide.
Sure. So I thought the best way to approach how you can add value to a GC as a flooring contractor and to an architect was to talk about the process. Okay. In 2019, we spent $479 billion in construction in the US alone. Okay. In 2018, $65 billion was wasted on rework because of bad data. Okay, and that's roughly 13.5% of the total cost of construction is because of bad data. You guys see this day in and day out, and you'll understand when I get further along here. Okay, but I wanted you to understand why that happens. Because I was an architect, and because I deal with architects and designers all the time, and we've done a bunch of research, I'm going to just give you some stats here. Architects and designers are dealing with thousands and thousands of manufacturers to find product. Okay. They're being pummeled with blogs, social media. There's marketing websites that are out there promoting certain products they get paid to promote, right? So that's how they're finding information, okay? There is no smart software that lets them gather that information and build a finish schedule, okay? So when we're talking about a finish schedule, we see typos. We see somebody using an old finish schedule and doing a piss poor job, basically, of editing that finish schedule. We see misspelled words. We see transposed numbers. The other day, we saw a Mohawk carpet tile, but the backing was ER3, which is Tarkett. So clearly somebody had used a finish schedule and didn't do a good job editing. So we went through 2,500 projects with a Sharpie, and we found that 30% of the finish schedules, 30% of the information that we see on all the finish schedules is either incomplete, inaccurate, or just plain wrong. Okay?
30%. 30%. That's a big number.
That's an average.
That is a big number, Jerry. 30%, right?
Yeah, and I'm going to give you this example in just a minute. So that's an average. What was interesting, though, is we went through the list of materials that we've gotten from customers that go from the estimator to the project manager and from the project manager to the purchasing person, and we found a consistent 11% error rate, which was bizarre because it was consistent across the board. Then we started doing some research, and what we found is there are productivity companies out there and institutions that time people and track this kind of stuff. And the average human being is dealing with a list of materials, and they're typing that information in. They're going to generate 11.25% errors. That's the average for a human being. So it's not our fault. We're human, right? The problem is, in our industry, a flooring contractor will take that list of materials and they'll type it into their estimating program. Then they'll take that same list of materials and they'll type it into their project management program.
Right. So you're going from.
Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. So first of all, they're getting potentially incomplete or inaccurate data up front.
Yes.
So as far as the finish schedule is concerned, then they're trying to translate that into the next step of, which is pretty much a manual process at the moment, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. So to give you an example, this was an actual job that came in yesterday. We had a customer calls and say, hey, I need help finding this information. Can you help us? So there were 21 products on the job. 14 products had bad data. So 66% of the job was bad information. Some of it was minor. Some of it was not minor. 3 products had the wrong manufacturer listed. 9 products did not list the product name. So how am I supposed to bid something where I don't have a name of a product, right? 2 products didn't list the size, and there were multiple size options. So if I submit this size, get the job, go through submittals, purchase it, and it's the wrong size, I've eaten some material. 6 products didn't list the backing. This particular carpet mill that was listed on they had 6 carpets specified from the same company. This company has 5 different backing options. Okay. So some backing options cost more than others. Some backing options cost more to install than others. And so there's some liability risk there. Okay. The best thing a architect or designer can do is create a custom. So why? Why is a custom such a great deal? Because every time you work with a manufacturer and you create a custom product, you get a unique identifier for that product that is unique to that specific product. Okay. We call that blockchain. If you know a lot about technology or hear about it, you may hear about it in the news when it comes to like Bitcoin. Bitcoin is blockchain. Okay. It is a unique identifier that is specific to one unique product, period. Okay. If you look on a manufacturer's website, and I'll use Bentley as an example, they'll have a product number listed, and that product number refers to all the colors that are available. So if there are, say, 12 colors, same product number, all 12 colors. They have multiple backing options. They have 3 tile backing options. They have 2 broadloom backing options. So you got 5 options there. If you do the math, that same SKU actually represents 30 products. Okay, unless you go into the spec and get the specific identifier for the backing, but it still doesn't mitigate the color options, right? So it's not that architects and designers are trying to create errors. We went through 4 design firms in Chicago, 2 large, 1 medium, and 1 small. We found that the average design firm had 1,200 manufacturers in their library out of the thousands that are out there, okay? What was interesting, though, is we found that almost 50% of the products in their library are discontinued. So they're pulling samples and they're pulling product that's old. And so if I try to explain this in terms that may seem easier to understand, let's take Interface as an example, okay? In Chicago, there are just over 6,000 design firms in the Chicagoland area. Interface has 5 or 6 reps. So let's say they have 6 reps. That means that each rep is required to call, or has at their disposal, 1,000 firms, right? And if I update or I call on 4 firms a day, they can't get to everybody. Product could have been dropped 9, 10, 12 months ago. And that's assuming that they go in the library and they find the sample the designers put under their desk. Because they liked it so much on one job, they want to use it again, but they don't know it's been dropped. So that's the problem that you're dealing with when it comes to the design community, okay? When it comes to the GC part of it, GC software is not smart, okay? There's some great software out there, but it's simply a storage unit, right? You put product in, data in, you get data out. So if you put bad data in, you're going to get bad data out. They're not product specialists. If I say to a GC, hey, I want to use Shaw with EcoWorks and this backing, or sorry, this size, the GC says, okay, great. They have no idea whether I'm right or wrong, whether that's the correct spec for the product. They're not product specialists. They are generalists. They're there to manage, and they have no way to compare apples to apples. So if you say, well, here is my spec, and I would accept 2 or 3 alternates. Well, if you're the architect, if you're not very specific about what those alternates are, you can get apples and oranges. You know, one of the first weeks I was at Lee's, we were reverse auctioning a big customer. And what the customer doesn't understand by doing a reverse auction is every mill is driving their product to the cheapest common denominator. Oh, it has to be 64 ounces. Well, I can make a 64-ounce product that wears for about a month, and then it just falls apart. But I met your criteria, right? So it's not necessarily a great idea. And those guys they're not educated to be that specialist. The flooring contractor for flooring products, they're the specialist, not the designer and architect, not the GC, but the flooring contractor. What a GC is looking for are a few things. Can you meet the compliance for the job? Are you qualified, right? Can you meet the safety requirements? And in these days and times, can you meet the COVID requirements, right? The quality of the work and the price, okay? Those are the things that they're looking at initially, okay? But what you may not be aware of is they're also looking for things like how long does it typically take to get a submittal package from this dealer, okay? GCs often have lists of all their subs and they rank you guys. You know, they'll put on there, here's the average time it takes to do this. So why is it important to get a submittal package quickly to the architect and the GC? Well, if you take 2 to 3 weeks to validate all the materials on that list of materials, that the architect has given you, and you finally submit your submittal package 3 weeks later, and the carpet was supposed to be installed, let's say 6 weeks from the day you were awarded the job, you're not going to meet the deadline. And if you delay the job, you're not just delaying the job for your trade, you're delaying it for all the trades that follow you. Just like if I'm the drywall contractor and I delay the job at the beginning, everybody that follows me is going to be delayed, and it costs money. The next thing is, how long does it take you to get them the closeout package? This is a very easy one to understand. I'm the GC. I don't get paid until all the closeouts are done. So obviously, I want them all quickly because I want to get paid and move on to the next job. Okay. And the last one's a little bit more obscure. A lot of times the GCs will complain that they don't get the SDS sheets for the products that are being used on the job site. So the superintendent on the job site has to have the SDS sheets for all the products that are being used that require SDS sheets in the job trailer during construction at all times. Okay. And they often have to go out and gather that information themselves because the subcontractors don't supply it. So it doesn't matter whether or not you're a flooring contractor or a plumbing contractor or electrical. The three biggest issues that don't get fulfilled today is time it gets to do submittals, time for closeouts, and the SDS sheets. So if I want to differentiate myself from my competitor, how can I change this? Do it faster. Be more thorough. Now I have change orders. When I go back to the GC and the architect with questions about product, don't just say this is not specified properly. Say, hey, this is what you specified. Here's some information. Here's what I would select. Become the go-to person for that architect and that GC when they have questions about flooring products.
Great.
I mean, isn't that so powerful?
Yeah.
I mean, you know, this is one of the things that we really, when we sat down and looked at the capability, you know, we believe in driving core competencies within the organization. And, you know, one of those core competencies is really our ability to be distinctive. So you know, you mentioned, well, what does the GC want? You know, I've got to have compliance. I've got to have safety. You know, I've got to have, you know, got to work based on the code. I've got to have the quality, and I've got to have the price. You know, these are things that are, you know, essentially standard. I mean, right. If you don't have any of those, well, get out of the, you know what I mean? I mean, just get out of there. You know, hey, you know. But suddenly, when you start creating these, you know, these capabilities that make you distinctive, that changes the playing field, doesn't it? Right? You know, having the ability to, you know, produce your submittals not on time, but before, you know, anybody could ever do it in terms of the capability that we've already seen with you, you know, having the ability to do your SDS sheets. I mean, hey, Jerry, one of the great things, I mean, we love these sort of small techniques that you mentioned. We said, hey, man, you know, what if, in fact, this is something you mentioned, what if your salesperson physically takes those printed, this is just standard printed SDS sheets to the trailer for every job they're involved in?
Yeah.
Do you think that happens anywhere else?
No.
We know it doesn't happen.
And what's interesting, so I spent 10 years in the conference room with the GC and the superintendent running the job, going through all the bids, right? And one of the things that was it's going to sound silly, but I'll explain why. For subcontractors who would label everything so I would know what I'm looking at when I'm reviewing the submittal package, that was a big deal, right? Even if they took a Sharpie and they wrote on there CPT1, that was a big deal. Here's why it was a big deal. If I've got look, let's take the job from yesterday. There were 6 carpets on the job, plus, you know, there were 21 products in total, right? I required 4 samples of each product for submittal purposes. So if I got 6 carpets, I've got 24 carpets I got to dig through. If I got to figure out which one you're submitting for CPT1 and which one you're submitting for CPT2, that's wasting my time. And when I'm sitting in that room going, well, I like this guy, it's because they make my life easier. Everybody that's being looked at is good. If they weren't good, they wouldn't be on the job. They wouldn't be bidding the job at all. But it's those little things that differentiate you when it comes to getting that slight edge over the next guy. so that you win, 1, 2, 3% more jobs a year.
Yeah, I love that, Jerry. And one of the things that when I'm talking and coaching sales teams, I say to them that, look, you've only got to be 1% better than everybody else. And when you're 1% better, it doesn't mean you win 1% more business. It means you get 100% of the business. So you've only got to be a little bit better. And the techniques that you're talking about are providing clarity, ease of use, timeliness, making it easy for the GC will, make you stand out like a lighthouse in a storm, because they have to deal, as you say, every day with drudging through all of these different samples, getting confused. So as you're listening to this, guys, if you get that clarity and make your bid so clear and make it so easy to work with, it's really going to enhance your odds of winning the job.
Yeah. And Mick, when we talk about that, so first of all, yes, and this is what really is exciting, the fact that these are customer facing, value driven capabilities, so forget about, because everybody thinks, oh, well, it's a piece of software. No, this is where when we spoke with Jerry, when we saw this, hang on, forget about the word software, just how do we engineer a process that really creates value for the customer?
Yeah.
And okay, well, here's a capability called spec intel. We get it, but it's really the strategic drive to do that. And this is why we think that if more senior managers get involved with the way that they integrate their organization with the customer facing side of things, which is, what this okay, I don't know of any other spec. Are there any other spec intels out there?
No, we're the first.
Okay,
which doesn't always make it the easiest.
Okay, so we can't even say, look, okay, but so here's a real capability that can say, and what I love about this is that, what this can do for an organization, not only does it enhance your ability to create a degree of distinctiveness, but at the same time, and I mean, hopefully Jerry will give us that perspective. At the same time, it actually can enhance productivity significantly. All right. Now, and when in our philosophy, we're not trying to reduce cost, but we're trying to move cost from being non-value add to value add, right? Okay, so if we can enhance productivity, what can we do? We can do more bids. We can do better quality bids. We can have a degree of capability that is a significant in the whole pre-construction environment. If you think about where bottlenecks are, it's in the pre-construction environment. Well, I'm not saying it's the only bottleneck, but it really is there.
Well, Andre, also right now, what we've seen is that in response to the economic period that we've had, everybody's wanting to rebuild their backlog. We've seen the pre-construction department overloaded with bids because we're trying to get those bids out. We're trying to get that revenue. We're trying to win those jobs. And, we're seeing these departments now starting to think about triaging. I can't get all of these bids done. So which ones do I focus on is becoming a bit of a challenge. But yes, what do? Do you hire more? Do you hire more cost in that organization? Do you use offshore, estimating resources? Well, here's a way to actually leverage that cost. It's a strategic value in creating great bids. If we can get more bids through and more of those bids get won, that's a double whammy.
Well, and you left one component out earlier, Andre, and that is if you've got more time, you can provide better customer service. And you can turn a bid job into a lifetime customer that's all negotiated versus bid in the future.
Oh, no. Okay. For anybody, please, no, hang on. Let's stop right there. Okay. Let's not do anything else. Okay. So here's the instruction. Can Jerry repeat that very slowly so everybody can absorb that really well? Because this is what's strategic.
So if you can save your project managers and your salespeople time so they can focus more on servicing the customer, giving better customer service, you can turn a bid job in the future into a negotiated job. So if I bid a job for you now, and let's say it's a half a floor of a building on your campus and you got 3 buildings and each building's 5 floors, it's not a big job today, but I provide such great customer service. The next time you need work, you're not going to a GC and going out to bid. You're coming to me and saying, hey, I need to replace all the carpet in this building. Can you help me do that? Or I need to maintain all the carpet. Who should I use and how should I do it?
I love this because, one of the most common strategies that we see with salespeople going to market when they're starting a new territory, join a new company, or they want to get into a new area, their strategy is, well, let's go see what's on the bid board, or let's go and approach this GC. And, the first job, I'm going to bid real low so that I can get in, prove my worth, right? And then hopefully, impress them with my delivery capability. And I'm going to get more work in the future. So what we've done is we've given up our strategy to win is to give up margin to create a beachhead. Now you've said, this is beautiful. The beachhead is built on exemplary customer service. You've provided a bid that was timely, accurate, easy to use. You didn't drop the margin to create that, but you delivered an outstanding piece you recognize. So you've never started with, and then in the future, you've got to justify, I gave you that low margin then because I wanted to win work. Right now, you've got a strategic relationship built on value from the outset. That, Jerry, was...
Oh, that's gold, eh?
We could stop the show right now. Thanks, gold. Jerry. See you next week.
Thanks.
Yeah, well, no, that is absolute gold. That is beautiful.
Well, and if I can provide a bid that shows the architect and the GC that I can turn around a submittal package quickly by including some of the things that are included in that document, that shows I'm ready to do the job. Okay. Mick, can you pull up the second slide?
I can.
Because it refers back to something. So we talk about the 30% error rate, which is the average. Obviously, based on our job yesterday, some are higher and some are less.
I'm just going to hide your face a little bit, Jerry, just to make it a little bigger.
No problem.
There we go.
And so getting through this cycle where you submit the information to the GC and ask for clarification and more information, and it goes back and, if you're doing that and that process is taking 2, 3, 4 weeks, you're delaying the job. If you can go back to the architect and GC and say, here are the products you specified, here are some of the assumptions made based on better quality product or best practices or where we are, and here's why we did that. You're no longer throwing that list of materials back at the GC and architect saying, hey, you didn't give us good information, I need more information, right? That just makes them do more work. If I can say, here's what I see, here's how I'm interpreting that, and here's why I would use these products in this way, you're no longer going to be bidding a job, you're now the consultant for that project, right? And then
say that again. You've gone from being...
You go from being just a bidder to more of a expert consultant on the job. You're the flooring contractor. You know these products better than anybody, better than most of the manufacturers, okay? And then...
but Jerry, Harold, please, because, you have this, Jerry, you have this tendency to skip over gold real quick. You know what I mean? I don't know why you do this, you know what I mean? But, because here's the thing, that what do we do today? The problem is that people don't really, here's the thing. A lot of times the executive doesn't really know what we do today, right? They are so, this is their blind spot. And sometimes, when they really get to understand how to make things, better and, from a strategic perspective, when they really get to understand some of the stuff that you're talking about, they can create fundamental change, right? Yeah. And it's positive change. This is stuff that their people love doing. You know what I mean? Can you imagine transforming be it an estimator or a pre-construction person, or hey, even the sales guy, when that gives them an opportunity, isn't this right, to interface with the customer with positive driven information,
Right.
I can help you do something better,
Current
and easier and quicker. And oh man, I mean,
yeah, because the way most flooring contractors are set up, based on what we see, everybody is siloed. We talk to estimators, and estimators will say, well, the salesperson comes in, he throws the bid over the wall, and we got to figure it out. Well, when the PM gets a job, they say the same thing. Well, the estimator throws us the material list, and it's got errors, and we got to figure it out, right? Everybody who touches a job along the process has to add value to that job, so that when it gets from estimating back to sales or project management, a portion of that task is done and doesn't have to be repeated. Right now,
sorry, I'm going to stop you again.
Yeah, I was going to say that's
I mean, nugget. You do this all the time, and here's the thing: if each organization actually measures how many times we touch the information on a job to move it forward. And what did you say? When each person touches something, what should happen?
They're going to generate 11% errors. Okay.
Uh-huh.
Because they're manually okay. So the process, when we get to the third slide, you'll see it. The manual process goes from a paper process to a digital to a paper. Okay. And then it continues along the paper route until it gets to purchasing. And every time they have to reinvent that material list by creating a transmittal, right? I got to type it all out in the transmittal. I got to type it all out in my purchasing software. I got to type it all out into my estimating software. Every time they do that, they fix some of the errors from the previous person, but they're generating new errors as well. Okay. Simply because we're human. It's not, this is everybody. It's universal. And so if I can reduce those errors by I type it in once and I don't do it again, and I simply pass that data along, and every time somebody touches it, they add more information that pertains to that job.
Okay, so Jerry, that was the nugget that got me so excited just a minute ago, and that is, you said that really what you want is for everybody to add value during the process. So checking something is not value adding.
No.
Making an error is not value adding. As something moves through the process, as the project or the bid matures and people are adding more information and more value to it, if they're additive to it, then that's value creating. If they're just making mistakes or checking, there's no value add there, and you've just got a lot of cost in your organization that is checkers checking the checkers. And because we're human, you're always going to have failure points in that. But
Mick, here's the problem. What happens when this organization wants to grow by 20%?
Well, if they're starting out with the siloed process.
So it's completely unscalable, right? Okay, so you've got checkers checking the checker. So what happens? The checkers who check the checker says, oh, I'm too busy. What do I want? I want more people to help me check the checkers.
Right.
So you are actually, and then you know what, and here's the crazy thing about this, Nick, is that people call that an investment. I'm investing in people. I'm putting more people in to enable my growth. What a lot of dog shit. I mean, it's absolutely crazy. I mean, you know what? Because, Jimmy, who's a checker, says I'm too busy. Therefore, I'm going to give you another Jimmy. And I'm going to call this an investment.
Yeah.
It really is crazy.
Yeah, and you can't inspect in quality. You have to design in quality, and that's having a robust process, Jerry, that takes out those manual opportunities for errors. And I know you're gonna come to that in the slides.
Well, and as you said earlier, the tasks that they're doing at that point aren't generating revenue. They're simply dragging margin out of the job. Mm-hmm. But they have to be done.
That's the problem. They are important non-value added tasks, and therefore the rule for important non-value added tasks is it's called automation.
Right.
You have to automate.
Nobody would design a system and a process the way it is today.
I mean,
an investor would look at you and go, "You're crazy. Why would I do that? Why would I hire all these people at these costs for this margin?"
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
And therefore, and here's the thing and why we, really, I'm hoping that there are, executives that at some point listen to this, because, hey guys, you need to wake up. And let me explain that. If they don't get involved in these in what things like that spec intel and the way that it gets integrated in the organization, which is more important, right? If they don't get involved in that, all that happens, if for every dollar of growth that they have, they're going to increase cost by the same proportion of that. They're not ever going to get to a place where, they're actually creating that true investment that really allows them to differentiate their organization, create that distinctiveness, and truly grow and make more money. So, these are the things that are important. And the more that, the executive gets involved at this level, is so great. And the last point, okay, I'm going to shut up now. The last point is, Jerry, when people inspect, right? Is that a job function that is, that's rewarding?
No.
I mean, can you imagine anybody says, I'm the greatest inspector in the world? You know what I mean? I'm checking somebody else's, errors. I mean, it's so unrewarding. Yeah. Whereas, when you change that, suddenly you give people something that they can understand has true value associated to it.
Right.
And then you get, better engaged people, right?
Yeah. Well, and people enjoy their job more.
Yeah.
I mean, and if you have happy employees, they're going to be more productive.
Right. Correct.
So, all right.
Let's
revisit. Let me know when we need to move on.
Okay. So right now, the way the information is gathered is still in a paper or analog format. It's, again, bad data in, bad data out, and it's all driven through the process. Okay. The job comes in to the subcontractor. Okay. And the first thing the subcontractors do is to validate that list of materials. So they're providing clarification on their bid. So you have two options. You can either look at errors as a revenue opportunity. Okay. Change orders, right? I make money on change orders. I do hear that. I think that's fairly short-sighted because, yeah, you'll make more money on that job, but you're not going to endear yourself to the customer or the GC. But if you can go back and provide that customer or the GC and the architect clarifications that are helping them save time, they're going to remember that. Okay. So now as the estimator, I'm Googling all the information or I'm calling reps to clarify, what's on this finish schedule that has all these errors. Okay. If the products aren't perfectly clear, you got to either build in margin to cover your butt, or you have to waste time getting clarification. Okay. And those are both challenges and probably get used a little bit on each job. Now, when you need pricing for those products, you've got to reach out to every manufacturer or distributor and get pricing. I didn't realize the time-consuming process that is. And I hear it from our customers now that we're building a pricing module that's the case. I was a rep for 17 years. If you were one of my dealers and you called for pricing, I was usually back to you within a few hours, right? But I'm hearing that they're sometimes calling reps for pricing 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times over the course of a week or two just to get a price so they can bid the job. And the GC's hammering them to get the bid in. So it becomes a real problem. And then you win the job. And it's always a little bit of, we won the job, yay. And then it's like, oh shit, we won the job. Now we got to figure this out. Did we bid the products properly, given the fact that there's so many errors? Did we get clarification or we just cover our butt? Now I got to do the submittals. Now I got to do all this other stuff to get this information to the GC. Okay. And it's time consuming and not profitable process at that point, right? Most owners have no idea how long a project manager spends putting together a submittal package. Most PMs don't know because they don't sit down and do it all at once. They do 5 minutes here, 10 minutes there, 20 minutes there. We spent 2 years with a stopwatch, and I can tell you, if they're good, it's a 2-hour process on an average size job. If there's a weird products on the job, I've actually spent as much as an hour trying to find a manufacturer's website. And that's not uncommon. Every customer I talk to has that experience, and that's not productive. It's not revenue generating, right?
Right.
If you can, and then once you're done with the job, now you got to do the closeout. And so the closeout is probably as important as the submittal. And that's just because I want to endear myself to not only the GC, but the architect. The architect's not getting paid till I do my closeout. I have had customers tell me, well, they hold back 10%, so we just don't do it because it's not worth the time it takes to put it together. So the GC has to do it. There's a general contractor in DC that I used to work with when I was designing law firms, and they were kind of a startup GC at the time, and now they're massive. They have 12 locations. They got this huge corporate headquarters in DC, and they have an entire team that does submittals for their projects because the subs are so unreliable. So if everybody's so unreliable, and I'm the one guy that gets you a professional, consistent package every time, and it looks the same no matter who in my office creates it, and it's fast, and I'm the guy who gets the superintendent all the SDS sheets on the job site. I go out and meet with them. Any questions? Here's my card. Call me. And I'm the guy who provides a closeout package, the day after I finish the job. I got to believe they're going to remember you when they get in that room and they're going, well, who do we give this job to? Yes, quality is important. Yes, price is important. Safety is important. All that stuff is important. It's the intangibles that they'll drive the decision. Who's costing me time and who's saving me time? Who makes me look good in front of the customer, which is the client, the end user, and who makes me look bad?
Yeah. And you used a magic word there, which was standardization.
Yes.
Actually producing the same thing every time, on time, whatever salesperson, whatever pre-construction person, whatever project manager, you're getting the same thing every time is absolutely huge.
It has to become rote. It has to become, whether you got 3 months of experience or 30 years of experience, everybody that disseminates a document from this office, it looks like this before you send it out. And
stop right. When you talk about it looks like this, I mean, I really want to, hopefully we can, but to show people the quality of the documentation that you deliver. And because I believe that's important, the way that we communicate to our basically our stakeholders. So this is not just the customer, but this is internally as well. And the clarity and the accuracy that is driven by this, first of all, it's just, you do things in a way that it's beautifully designed. The document looks like you want to read it.
That's all Tom. Yeah.
Okay, well, good on you, Tom. And so I think when people see documentation that they want to read, they don't want to go to anywhere else.
Well, and it has to be clear, because what we see with everybody's analog or paper process right now is they'll send an email to the GC and they'll have file folders for each product, and each product has the documents in it, but nothing beyond that. Or they'll use a PDF editor and they'll create a nicer looking package, but that takes time, right? And so it's a real challenge. I just emailed you both a submittal package that I had sent you the warehouse binder earlier. This is a submittal package. These documents, when you're using a database like ours, take about 2 minutes, and that's it. And you've got that consistency. And that
maybe do we want to go to that, or do we want to go to?
Yeah, I mean, look, Mick. We never. I know with Mick. Mick loves
I think the flow chart would give a little bit of structure for people to hang some of Jerry's comments on. So I really would like to look at the flow chart, go through that, and then perhaps we can go and look at the submittal document, if that's okay.
Yeah. Right.
Okay, so this is the process, and I've blown it up, and I'm going to move along as you describe this. But just so that you people watching you might want to say a couple of things about these, where the failure points are. You've got some interesting. So over to you, Jerry.
Okay, so a project comes in, salesperson throws it over the fence to estimating. So the estimator has to validate that material list. They have to clarify the information. I've seen it done 3 ways, and 2 of them as an owner of a company scare the hell out of me. So the first way is the estimator will just simply say, this is carpet 1, this is carpet 2, no detailed information, right? That scares me from a liability standpoint. Fortunately, very few estimators do it that way. We had a conversation with one of our customers a few weeks ago, and the president was on the call, and 2 of the estimators were on the call, and we talked about validating a material list. And what they said was, well, we just copy exactly what's on the finish schedule, right? So if you're dealing with the job we dealt with yesterday, you got 66% errors on your finish schedule. Your liability is out the wazoo. And then you have the norm, which is they'll start using Google. They'll search for their product. They'll go to the manufacturer's website. Everybody knows what Armstrong Standard Exelon tile is and how long it takes to install it. That's perfectly clear. But if it's going back to Bentley, if it's a Bentley product, well, is it broadloom or tile? Okay, it's tile. Which of the 3 tile backings do they want? Okay, and getting that clarification, and that takes time. Okay, and then once they have all that clarification, then they're manually typing this information into the estimating program. So now I just took all this pristine information I've got, I typed it in, and I generated 11% errors. Okay,
right, so exactly right. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's sort of step 1. And that's how these guys will take that validated list of materials and get into their estimate. So I actually went through 2 steps there in one process.
So we're over here.
Yep. So now go down to the next row, and you've got calculating the quantities. Okay. And then after that, it's the pricing. So again, I didn't realize how much time either sales, project management, or estimators spend on gathering pricing. We all know if you specify the product, or if there's 5,000 yards of this carpet and only 200 yards of all the other carpets, you probably need to have a one-on-one conversation with your rep based on who's steering the job, right? But for the other 15 products on the job, you don't need to have that conversation. And what they're doing now is they're having to reach out to the distributors, and the distributors will say, well, we sent you a price list 9 months ago. Okay, great. Where the hell is that, right? Can't you send me another one? But they're spending time doing it, or they're calling a rep. I am amazed at how many reps don't return phone calls promptly for pricing. You can't get the order until the GC awards the job, and part of the process for getting the order is getting the job bid. That's the first step when it gets the GC level, right? So it's a time-consuming process.
Jerry, just as an aside, one of the things that we work on when we're working with salespeople, a lot of them think about who they kind of want to sell to, but they don't really have a proactive strategy to work with their suppliers, with their vendors, and having that connection to be able to get timely information is critical.
Huge.
So the better ones do a reasonable job of it, but it's not usually a planned strategy, and having a little bit more discipline and process to it, as you're talking about, is really going to save them a lot of time, or even having an automated way of doing that.
Yeah, it will. And again, consistency is helpful. If you're talking to a dealership and you're a rep and you're getting calls from 15 different people from that company for different jobs, getting the same information is great. Hey, I'm calling you because I'm bidding this job. Here's the 2 GCs or the 3 GCs I'm bidding to. Here's the architect. Here's the designer. Here's the GC. Here's the products I've got. Here's the quantities I got. Please call me back with pricing as soon as possible. The bid is due tomorrow. Basic communication. And 99% of the time when I used to get calls like that, I never got it. Hey, this is so-and-so at this company. Here's my number. Please call me. That doesn't tell me anything. I'm not prioritizing that call.
Yep.
They're not specifying my product, because if they were, I'd be getting a call from Sam, who's my sales guy that I work with, because he always calls me when he's taking my product out because he wants to register it. So the pricing is a component that is time consuming and a problem. Okay. And then the next step is you win the job. And it's always both a good and a bad thing. Hey, we won the job. Great. Oh shit, we won the job. Okay. So did I clarify everything before I bid the job? Do I have all the information to make sure that's right? Okay. So now I've got to get my submittal samples. Okay. So now I've got, based on the job yesterday, I got 21 products I have to order samples from. Let's say that it takes me 3 to 4 minutes to order a sample. And if it's 6 from one company, let's say that call is going to take me probably closer to 10 minutes, right? So now I'm spending an hour, hour and a half just ordering samples. And then I got to track them. And oh, by the way, I'm not working on one job. I'm working on 6 jobs.
Right.
Okay. So I've got to now track those samples, figure out when they came in. And when the samples come in and they're not side marked, oh shit, which job is this for? And GCs wonder why it takes so long to get this information together. And I have a customer in Arizona, and she said, we have never gotten an Armstrong sample since we started our company. The distributor in Arizona will never send us samples. And we use your platform, we get them right away. And every market is different, but getting samples sometimes isn't as simple as making a phone call or emailing somebody. If it's a company like Shaw, Mohawk, all these bigger companies, Dowtile, piece of cake, right? But when you're dealing with some of the smaller, more boutique companies, it can be a real challenge. I had a CEO of a porcelain tile company in Italy tell me once, I said, how long does it typically to get samples to your customers? He goes, oh, we're really good. We usually get them out within a month. I said, let me clarify. So I order a sample, you get it out within a month, and then it has to ship to the US. So basically it's taking a month and a half to get to me. Yeah, that's awesome. And I'm thinking, are you kidding me? I need that sample tomorrow, not in a month and a half. And so that, again, is a time-consuming process that is, again, doesn't generate revenue, okay? Now, they've got to create the submittal package. So what's happening now is the PM is going from website to website to website, gathering the information, or calling the reps and saying, send me the information, or calling the distributor saying, send me the information. It's all coming in piecemeal over the course of, a day to 2-3 weeks in some cases, if the rep isn't responding and you've called the rep. So again, you got this time-consuming process to gather it, and now you have to manage it because, again, you're doing 6 jobs, right? So it's coming in piecemeal. So then you either use a PDF editor and make a nicer-looking package, or you throw it in a file folder and you throw it over the wall, okay? That's commonly what we see now. And then when you send that submittal package to the architect and the GC, we talked about labels a little bit earlier. Labels are incredibly important. Tom will tell you that labels are important because your brand, your logo should be on every sample that leaves your office, right? Whether it's a sample, a submittal package, whatever, because when it's sitting in the GC's office and it's sitting in the architect's office, you want your brand visible. I'm going to tell you as an architect, you want that product labeled, and you want to label it because it's going to save me time. It's going to take the guesswork out of me reviewing that submittal package, okay? And there are labeling programs out there, but you still have to type all the information. If you take a material list, now I got to type in Shaw contract, edge tile 5T203, color focus 04111, EcoWorks backing 18 by 36 inches. That's not a quick process. Okay. What most people fall back to then is the Sharpie process. This is my CPT1. Okay. Now we talk about the SDS sheets. Okay, we've talked about this a couple times. If I weren't doing what I'm doing today, so I sold carpet for 17 years for 3 different manufacturers, 2 startups and 1 established company, right? I would be working for a flooring contractor for the simple reason that I can use tools at my disposal to outsell everybody else. I got all the products I need, right? So I'm going to work with reps that are going to work with me. Great. That's no different than anybody else. But I'm going to be able to provide things that other reps aren't going to do because they don't understand the entire process, okay? Like labeling a sample. It sounds silly, or taking the SDS sheets out to the job site. If I am the one salesperson that takes it out there and I meet the superintendent, I introduce myself, and after the 3rd, 4th, 5th job, this guy's my old friend. I know he fishes. He's a fly fisherman. Great. Hey, did you go up to Wisconsin and fish yet this season? I'm going to endear myself to that person because just like when I go to an A&D firm, the receptionist is the number one person I need to get to know because she's the gatekeeper. Well, the superintendent is going to speak up. They're not bashful. And if they're sitting there trying to figure out subs and they know you and they like you, your name is going to come up more often.
Another nugget, Jerry, making the superintendent your friend.
Yeah, it's critical. Now, when it comes to purchasing, again, you're taking that same material list that's got those errors and you're manually typing that information into your purchasing software. Okay. Whether you're using a piece of software that has project management and purchasing together, so it all flows, you still got the errors from when you put it in when you were doing project management. So we want to get people away from typing. It's time consuming and it's fraught with liability. Because if you make an error, so you asked me to send you a warehouse binder.
Yeah.
We had a customer about 18 months ago. We asked them how they're using our software, and the guy said, "Oh, and I make warehouse binders." And I'm like, "Warehouse binder? What the hell's a warehouse binder?" He goes, "I make a warehouse binder for our warehouse guys for every job." He includes the pick list, and our software has the image of every product. And almost monthly, I get a call from an owner saying, "Hey, tell me what that warehouse binder was." The reason they call is because they've somehow installed the wrong product or the wrong size. Last month, they had a customer installed 1,000 feet of Armstrong static dissipative tile with the wrong adhesive. So they had to rip out 1,000 feet and replace it. The month before, customer installed the wrong size ceramic tile. They transposed the number, the size was available, and nobody caught it. Well, guess what? The architect caught it during punch list, and the GC said either give the client a $5,000 credit or replace it. So if I can give the guys in the warehouse all the tools they need to not make those errors, I'm going to do it. Same thing with purchasing. Okay, so that warehouse binder is simply a picture book. I demoed to a customer yesterday, and I said, here's a warehouse binder. It's got your pick list. It's got a picture of every product, and I showed them a transition piece from Kubrick, and I said, it tells them, has an image of the product, tells them the size, the length, profile, the finish. And he said, and if my guys pull the wrong thing at that point, I got another problem.
Right, no doubt.
So Andre, do you have the example of the warehouse binder?
Yeah, I do.
If you want to share screen,
all right,
we can pull it up here.
So this is the warehouse binder. Okay, this is, sorry, I've got the submittal package. Hang on. Let me just see here. No, wait, I've got the submittal package, but not the warehouse binder.
Scroll down. It was a separate email, so it's probably attached to the first email.
Okay, submittal package, but no warehouse. Jerry, have you got it on you? Because you can just share your screen. Yeah,
sure.
That could work out quite well. Yeah, just let Jerry share his screen.
Okay.
And if he hasn't, I've now found it. Okay, so here's the warehouse binder. Beautiful.
All right. So
are you sharing it, Andre?
Yeah. Have you or Jerry? Well, actually, hang on. I'll share screen. There you are. And let's have a look at. So there you are. Beautiful.
Okay. So this is a warehouse binder, and this was for a demo. So I'll get past the basic stuff. But the warehouse binder is going to have the pick list. It's going to have all the products we're going to pull, the quantities. Some customers have codes for their warehouse, all that, right? But what it also has is an actual image of each product. And the products that are key are not the products at the beginning, the carpet tiles, all that. It's the products at the end. It's the transition pieces. It's the sundries. It's all of this. So this was that Kubrick product I was talking about. So now I'm showing the warehouse guys, this is the profile. This is what it looks like, right? Because most of these types of products are stored in an old carpet tube at the end of a rack. And so they may have 2 or 3 styles in there, and I got to pull the right one. Okay, it's July, so I'm in the middle of school season. The warehouse is packed. We're busy as hell. I'm pulling stuff, and I think this is the right one, but I'm not sure. Well, if I've got a picture of it and it tells me the size and it tells me the color, the chances of me making that mistake and costing the company money are pretty dramatically reduced.
Nice.
I mean, look at this, Mick. I mean, just look at the actual clarity and the ease of somebody using this. I mean, it's just makes so much sense. and when you have it in this way, the chance of error is so much reduced. I mean, look at that. I mean, you've got exactly the description. You've got exactly where it is. You've got the you've got a beautiful photograph of or an image of what it is. I mean, that is so beautiful. I mean, it really is. Look at that. How easy is this?
We have over 99% of the products in our database we have the images for. And if I'm searching our database, I can always tell if we didn't have an image because customers will send us images from their warehouse. Hey, I noticed you didn't have the picture of this bucket of glue. Here it is. Great, thanks. And that goes live in the database, usually in minutes.
I mean, this is, I look at this. And I mean, look here. Here it is. I mean, I find this really, and from, guys, the thing about this, from a scalability viewpoint, how you train. So if there's a warehouse, just think about the warehouse manager, right? Eventually they get to know these products. They know what the product is, but they get a new person in the warehouse. Think about it. They are as busy as crazy. And suddenly, when they need help and they recruit new people, right? And the chances of the new person getting this wrong is a hell of a lot less than, with the other types of information that they get, which is just a line item. I mean, there it is.
Think about this, though. Every warehouse I've gone to in Chicago, and I've been to quite a few, English is not their first language in most cases. And so if English is not my first language, how do I read the information just to make sure I'm pulling the right product? And a picture helps.
Yeah.
Oh, it makes a massive difference. Yeah, and that was a great point. I mean, it really is. So for a warehouse manager, for example, to train his new people, and one thing, guys, remember, in many of these warehouses, that's probably where the greatest staff turn is inside the warehouse.
Yeah.
So you've got this repetitive capability to train and retrain and all that sort of stuff. And normally the diligence that they have to pull out the stuff, I mean, it's not the greatest job in the world. Let's be frank about it. So if they make error around this, I mean, look at this. Is that a very lovely way to ensure at least have just get it right up front?
Yeah. So
this is very cool. So guys, if you don't have this capability, I mean, you are definitely already at the back of the queue, no doubt about it. All right.
Good stuff. So yeah, where do we go from here? I think we're kind of coming towards the end. A bunch of nuggets in there, Jerry. I think we're going to have to write a little article capturing some of these that were so good. And so we did ask a question earlier. I don't think there are any right answers. If you remind us of the question, it was what is the most popular product used in that is bought on construction projects? So share what that is, Jerry.
It's Target traditional wall base.
Think about that.
More than anything else in North America.
And you said it's
most popular
twice as much as anything else?
We track how much we track every product and every product type that's being used. It helps us schedule our scraping to make sure everything is current. And we see the second most, so in the last 6 months, we've seen that product used several thousand times. Okay. The next most popular thing is used half as much.
Right.
Virtually every job we see flow through the system has Target wall base. And burnt umber is the most popular color.
All right.
Oh, look at that. Hey, lovely. So, Mick, before we go, and
I was just going to say, we'll let you finish up there, Andre, but anybody's got any questions for Jerry, put them in the comment box now. Over to you, Andre.
Yeah, I just want to, Mick, if you go back to Jerry's slideshow, I think this is fairly important just to reinforce. So first of all, you look at some of can you go back to the Jerry slideshow?
Yeah, you're talking faster than my capability to do it.
That's pretty standard practice. I agree with you. You're right.
All right.
All right. So let's keep going. Okay. And let's get to I want to just, there you are. Okay. So guys, here's the big thing. All right. So remember, we had, in our opinion, okay, so I'm sure Jerry will tell you, many more, but really our view of looking at spec intel, all right, is that it delivers two very important strategic things. Number one is, that ability to be distinctive with your customer, right? And secondly, the ability to reduce waste and increase productivity. And really make people's work more meaningful. Okay. Now, I mean, I know many would say, okay, how do I measure that, etc. But make work more meaningful is, Jerry said is, a one truth, right? So there's a single source of where all the data gets driven. That takes away, remember, all those various manual and paper and then re-enter, and it takes away all of those components. And Jerry, just lastly, a little bit of a plug for your capabilities. Tell us a little bit about the various, let's call it ERP systems or accounting systems that you do integrate with, please.
So we do something called blockchain. So every product in our database has a unique SKU. And only a singular product has that SKU. And what we are doing is we're working with other software companies like Measure Square, Safe Harbor, Job Runner. I've been talking to ProCent yesterday. I got another one with ProCent today to export to their software. So what we're doing is we're taking this single source of data that's now accurate, and we're pushing that data to these other programs that our customers use. Okay. So as an example, I've got one customer who uses Measure Square. Their estimator will validate the list of materials in our database first because it's faster and it's more accurate. They'll download a file they then upload into Measure Square, and it pre-populates all of the product information for them. So they're not typing. Okay, so I've taken in, I made it accurate, and I want to keep it accurate. And so every time somebody touches that job, they should add value. So the estimator validates in our system, puts it in their estimating program, fills it all in. They're not typing it in. Right? So it saves time, makes it, they bid the job. We're introducing a new feature where they can actually now automate requesting pricing. So they click a button, they ask for pricing. Okay.
Oh, think about that. Hey?
Yeah,
wow.
You haven't seen that feature yet.
A big one. That's a big announcement. We should have. Well, I mean, how do we make big announcements? Balloons, bombs, stuff happening. You know what I mean? We've got to make big announcements. All right.
Yeah. And so, after they win the job, then the job gets passed on to the project manager to create the submittal package, order the samples, make labels, all that, right? But because the estimator started in our platform, that part of the job's done now. I have to go in and any change orders I have to make, anything that was TBD and they finally select a color, I've got to make that change, but I'm not starting from scratch. So the estimator added value to me as a PM because they've done that. Now as a PM, once I've done the submittal package and once I've done the order the samples and made labels and all that, and I've got into the client, everything's been approved, great. Now I'm going to pass that job off to purchasing. And now purchasing is going to take that data, they're going to download a CSV file, and they're going to either input that into their purchasing software or they're going to copy and paste, but they're not going to type. So that all the information stays pristine, because the PM now added value because they corrected the TBDs or any change orders. So now they've made it the right list of materials for that project. And the PM can create 26 different kinds of technical documents. There's a whole slew of them. We see 4 most common. And then the 4 we keep talking about. It's the submittal package, the closeout package, the SDS sheets, and the warehouse binder. They all take about 2 minutes to make, okay? So once the purchasing person has ordered the material and the job's ready to be closed out, whoever is going to do the closeout package is going to get the job transferred back to them. And so all along the way, that single piece of product number okay, the blockchain, stays with that project the whole way. Now I export that to, say, a program like Measure Square, or I export it to a program like ProCent, let's say. We're helping our customers build their databases that are accurate. When I talk to a customer about their database, they'll say, well, we got 9 RDEX feather finishes because everybody spells it differently. And now we got this massive cluster that we're trying to go through when we're doing estimating, because we have 9 variations of the same product, right? But if you can create this single source of data that's all interconnected by this blockchain number, it represents a singular SKU. And as we update our database, if that product gets updated, it automatically updates in our customers' databases so that they have the correct information when they go purchase the product.
Beautiful.
So
and okay, so that was the one really, you know, so that people can understand how, you know, just from a mechanical viewpoint that it works. Yeah, so I mean, I really love this, guys. You know, when we can create value with our customer, and we can create, you know, improvements in productivity, you know, and we can, you know, sort of create a bit of uniqueness for ourselves. I mean, why would we not do this? And you know, please, I mean, yeah. First of all, the only problem I have with your capability, Jerry, all right, is, you know, I mean, it is just 10 times too cheap. I mean, you know, I don't believe in giving away stuff.
I understand.
And, you know, and I know, well, all right. I mean, that's your and my problem, you know. So.
I know. Well, and to clarify a little bit, you know, like the 2 errors that I talked about, the wrong static dissipative tile adhesive being used and the ceramic tile being used, both of those mistakes cost those flooring contractors over $5,000, right? Our average sell price is $4,000, which I know you think is too cheap. But when you're introducing a product that nobody has ever created into a marketplace where nobody understands the value, okay, you have to first get them to use the product. And we're at that beginning stage. I mean, it's why we're the only company that does this. When I tell a customer, in fact, even when we do demos sometimes, people will buy our software and then go, I don't think it can actually do what you say it does, because they can't believe it's that simple, right? And so pricing is always a challenge for us, because we're trying to introduce something, like I said, that nobody's ever done into a marketplace that's antiquated would be a good term. You know, this is a paper-driven manual industry. GCs are taking the first step in the last several years in that they're starting to now use more and more software. Some of the bigger companies, we talked about DCO earlier, they're both our customer and your customer. You know, they spend a decent amount of money on software to improve the process, right? But that's a beginning stage. You know, if I surveyed 200 flooring contractors and said, how do you do this? How do you do that? They will tell me it's manual. I talked to somebody the other day. They still take takeoffs by paper. I don't get it, but it's a slow process.
So Jerry, yeah, you made a point there that there's, well, great. Anybody watching this show, there is massive opportunity for improvement in your organization to take out a lot of that manual process, remove those errors, improve the customer experience, differentiate yourself. If you want to reach out to Jerry, I'll put his number up again in a, you know, in a moment there. But Jerry, in terms of, you know, people don't quite get it. I think you've done a fabulous job today of expressing, you know, what the value is in this, because we've talked about many of the problems that sometimes, you know, we have to deal with at the end in the form of change orders or giveaways or margin erosion. You've really brought that value to life. So I think people, you know, need to be very interested in how can they move off of a manual process? How can they standardize? How can they start demonstrating excellence? And if you do those things, you're going to percolate to the top as being an easy flooring contractor to deal with. That's going to help you with your repeat work. It's also going to get you out of the quote and hope business. It's getting into intentional bidding, and it's going to get you into long-term repeat, not negotiated work. So I think you did a fabulous job of educating us today, Jerry. I really appreciate that. And here's your contact info. People can take a picture of that screen, and I'm sure you're happy to, entertain any questions. For the audience, there was so much goodness in here that we're going to have to write an article on this, and so maybe we'll enlist your help to help us capture some of those nuggets, Jerry. So thank you for your time today. Andre, any closing remarks?
Yeah, and the last thing is what I love about this is, guys, so much time gets focused on, after we win the job, right? How we improve after we win the job. What Jerry and Spec Intel bring to us is the ability to really look at the way that we do things before we win the job as well as after the job. So, I mean, that's this is good stuff. We love it. Thank you so much, Jerry. Very
pleasure. I love geeking out on data.
All right.
So do we. So it's all good.
Yeah.